בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים. We are back on our Wednesday night Stump the Rabbi, where B'ezrat Hashem, after a little bit of Divrei Torah, you guys will ask some questions and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'ezrat Hashem, will give us the answers. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for my dear daughter Sarah bat Levana, Levana bat Sarah, רבנית שרה בת ענת, רב אפרים בן שולמית, דוד בן עשריה, דוריס בת ג'ורה, אורית בת אילנה, טליה בת שרה, יתרו בן אברהם, סטפן בן קטרינה, and also for הצלחה רבה with ניסים ונפלאות for מרשה בת ג'ולי, איילה בת מרשה, סמיול בן מרשה, אלכסנדר בן מרשה, ספס בן מרשה, אושרי בן דוריס, גבי בן דוריס, אלעד בן דוריס, דוד בן עשריה, שאול בן פרזנה, יתרו בן אברהם, ראובן חיים בן פאלה פרל, and Joshua ben Noach, and all of Am Yisrael will have a הצלחה רבה, and also all of our supporters, the righteous Noahides, will everybody have הצלחה רבה, רפואה שלמה, רפואת הנפש, רפואת הגוף. And again, I thank everybody for the continuous support that everyone continues to send, each person and their own abilities. It's very, very much appreciated. Your work is definitely acknowledged and appreciated. And it's reaching a lot of people. I mean, if anybody just simply pays attention to the comments that are made on the videos, some people are really opening up their hearts on the comments of the videos of how it's changing their lives. So each person that contributes, especially those that sign up to monthly contributions, are partners in all of these different amazing projects that we do. So B'ezrat Hashem will continue to spread the light to the world, to the four corners of the world, and show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we love him, and show the world how much it's worth it to do the will of Hashem. So tonight, actually, I have a very interesting B'ezrat Hashem Dvar Torah that actually starts with a question. As a matter of fact, it's a question that somebody asked. But it's also connected to our parasha, and it's connected to last night's shiur. It's connected to a lot of things. B'siyata d'ishmaya, we'll try to do our best to keep the time to around an hour before we start taking your other questions. But B'ezrat Hashem, I think that once you hear some of the things, you may not even want to ask questions, because you'll be dumbfounded at how extraordinary and endless our Torah is, Baruch Hashem, how everything is in it. As the Mishnah in Avot says, Afochba ve'afochba dekulaba. Delve into it and delve into it, because everything is in it. So the question is, if somebody did something bad to me, am I allowed to hate him? Now, everyone knows the answer is no. You're not allowed to hate, because we have a mitzvah in the Torah. It says that you have to love another Jew. You're not allowed to keep a grudge, and so on and so forth. But at the same token, we have a Gemara that says that if he specifically did something bad to you, such as take money, then you're allowed to hate him as long as he has not returned the money. So it's not exactly such a simple mitzvah. There's other details to it that we're going to get into. There's other details to it. Are we allowed to take revenge? Well, it all depends. What did you do? What did he do? And so on and so forth. So last night, in the shiur last night, we brought a chidush by the Chatam Sofer, who brings a Gemara in Masechet Nedarim, where the Gemara asks, how come the Torah scholars of that day, although they were scholars, their children were not scholars? Because normally you would assume that someone that's a scholar and dedicates their life to Torah, their children should also be scholars, but that wasn't the case. And the Gemara brings a rebuke on the sages of that day, those scholars of that day, and says that because they didn't bless the Torah, So then the Khatam Sofer says, what does it mean they didn't bless the Torah? They didn't do a blessing? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that they used the Torah, those sages in that time, used the Torah in order to beautify their own personal world, but not necessarily fulfill the Torah in order to sanctify Hashem's name, in order to do the Torah because it's the will of Hashem, because they misunderstood one of the statements in the Torah, which is that you have to love you must love your brother like you love yourself, and this is the klal gadol b'Torah. This is a big teachings in the Torah. It's a big rule in the Torah, and they, in essence, like unfortunately many do today, have turned that into the entire Torah instead of a big rule in the Torah. And there's a very big difference between this being the entire Torah and this being a big rule in the Torah. We're going to get to the reason, Bezat Hashem, of why, what does it mean to be a big rule in the Torah. And because at the end of it all, the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not create the world other than for the reason of us to fear Him. So in essence, telling us that if a person learns Torah, does mitzvot, and learns how to fear a Kadosh Baruch Hu, he has fulfilled his purpose. But if he doesn't, even if he knows the entire oral Torah and written Torah by heart, but he does not have fear of the Almighty, it's better off he didn't do anything. It's as if he did nothing. He'll get punished even for his Torah. Why? Because Yirat Hashem, Iotzaro. The fear of the Almighty, that's his treasure. So in essence, it tells us in many places, Gemara Masechet Shabbat, Masechet Avodah Zarah, and many other places, that the fear of the Almighty is the main treasure. It's the main purpose in the world, and there is no such thing as sanctifying Hashem's name without fearing Him first. And many people confuse this, but they say, "Wait a minute, but why should I fear when it sounds so scary? When really I could go to a much nicer version that some other." A Care Bear type of teacher is telling me that I should just love everybody, be a, lovey-dovey, kumbaya, whether you violate Shabbat and is intermarried and eats pig. That doesn't matter. I should love him anyway because he's a Jew. Shouldn't I just listen to that? It sounds much nicer. Torah says, no, you're not allowed to do such a thing. And the Care Bear rabbi should also do tshuva with you because he's misteaching you, he's misunderstanding the Torah. And the Gemara says that the Khatam Sofer brings this chidush, and it's actually quoted in a few places by the Khatam Sofer, that this is the reason why the sages got punished at that time, because they misused the Torah and in essence used the Torah in such a way that it was just to beautify their own personal lives and not necessarily to sanctify Kadosh Baruch Hu's name. So even scholars, and we're not talking about the scholars that are the greatest sages in history, but certain scholars at that time can make mistakes. And many people do make these mistakes where they read something and they don't look at the entire teaching. They just look at one single statement and make a conclusion based on that single statement, and 9 out of 10 times you're going to arrive at the wrong conclusion, because the Torah is a endless well, where if you learn the different aspects of different things, you'll see that there's a lot more to everything. Nothing is concluded with a single statement. But with that being said, people have made the mistake in the past, even though when there were scholars. People are making that mistake in this generation, so much so that the wicked rabbi in Efrat, Riskin, that we talked about recently, that is creating all types of mamzerim in the world and all types of desecration of Hashem, his Talmid, Brandis, he just was quoted in an article where he's proud to announce his appointment of the new chief Orthodox rabbi of a certain shul in Efrat in Israel, a woman. She's religious, There's no question about her religiosity as far as whether she keeps Shabbat or not. But to say that a woman is going to be the chief rabbi, in so many words, of a synagogue, nothing like that has ever happened in the Orthodox world. Nothing ever like that will happen in the Orthodox world. And so, but we just quoted something. They're not Orthodox. They're Reform, but they like to call themselves Orthodox. Just like my dear friend from the Iguda Rabbanim told me, in the old days, it was very simple. If you were Reform, you called yourself Reform. If you were conservative, you called yourself conservative. If you were Orthodox, you call yourself Orthodox. Today, the Reform call themselves Orthodox, and the Orthodox call themselves Orthodox. So you have no idea what's going on until you see what people are doing, and it's unfortunate. But this whole expression of love to this woman that is leading now a keilah in Eretz Yisrael is a distortion of this very same thing that we talked about yesterday, which is to love everybody, and that's the whole Torah. It's not the whole Torah. It's a big rule in the Torah, but it's not the whole Torah. In fact, there's even a mitzvah to hate certain people, them specifically, because they're violating the Torah, but there's certain things you're not allowed to do. So this is some of the things we're going to go into today, Bezat Hashem, who you're allowed to hate, who you're obligated to hate even, who you're not allowed to hate, who you're obligated to love, and so on and so forth. And what does it really mean to love another Jew? What does it really mean? So, in this week's parasha, Rabotai, I'm going to give you a chidush that I don't believe anybody has heard before, at least not my audience, because I have only learned it recently. This week's parasha has mitzvot in it, has interesting things in regards to tum'ah, ta'ara, the purity, impurity, but then there's the famous story at the end of this week's Parashat Emor, which is the story of the blasphemer. The blasphemer who is known as a person that was the son of Shulamit. Shulamit is the woman that in Egypt was a very bubbly person, let's say flirtatious person, immodest person, and would say hello to everybody, including the Egyptians, and Kadosh Baruch Hu punished her that because she was immodest in that aspect, not immodest in clothes. There was virtually no immodesty among the Jews as far as clothing in those days. That's an invention of the last 100 years, but rather her attitude was immodest, which unfortunately a lot of women till this day are very immodest in their attitude, and they're hello to everybody, goodbye to everybody. They have guy friends. I'm just calling my friend. Who's your friend? Steve. You have a male friend? How does that work? No, it's a platonic relationship. Maybe an atomic relationship, not platonic. There is no platonic relationship, male or female. It's an atomic relationship. Either he's forbidden to speak to because he is obviously the opposite and he's interested in you, or will be interested in you, or you're interested in him, or he's interested in another him, which is another reason why you should not talk to such a person like that. But nonetheless, people do whatever they want, and they're always going to find some Care Bear rabbi to tell them that it's okay and it's allowed and it's even a mitzvah to do some type of sin that they're doing. But nonetheless, this Shulamit was a sinner in a sense that she was flirtatious, bubbly, and would say hello to everybody. One day, one of the Egyptians got a hello and thought that she was interested in him, and automatically that made that beast that he already was come out, and he ended up raping her. And when her husband found out and in essence walked in on the situation, he started beating her husband to a pulse, almost to the extent of killing him. And that's when Moshe Rabbeinu saw it. He saw the Egyptian beating the Jew. He also saw Beruach HaKodesh that what actually transpired, that it's really the Egyptian, as usual, being the evil one here, and he killed him. He killed the Egyptian. So now, from that act, many other things, many other fruits, although rotten fruits came out of that whole act. The whole issue of Datan ve'Aviram, which were the husband and the brother of Shulamit. They ended up fighting the next day. Moshe Rabbeinu rebuked them. They ended up going to Paro, who tried killing Moshe Rabbeinu after that. Moshe Rabbeinu fled Egypt for the next 60 years before coming back and rescuing Am Yisrael. So here we see the first evil deed of Datan ve'Aviram. Furthermore, a child is born out of that rape. That child is mentioned many weekly Torah portions later, an entire book later, in Parashat Emor, in Sefer Vayikra, this week's parasha, in chapter 24, where it talks about how there was the son of the Israelite woman went out, and he was the son of the Egyptian man, and he went out among the children of Israel, and they quarreled in the camp. The son of the Israelite woman and the Israelite man, they quarreled, and he got upset that the Jewish people they did not accept him into the tribe of Dan, because although his mother was a tribe of Dan, the tribe is decided by the father, and since his father was an Egyptian, they did not accept him into any tribe because he was not part of any tribes. And he got into a quarrel with them. Some of the Mefarshim say that it got physical. And then they brought him to a Beit Din. They brought him to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu tried the case, and that's why it says, and the son of the Israelite woman went out. What does it mean, went out? He went out of the Beit Din. He went out of the Beit Din of Moshe Rabbeinu, after receiving the news that he is part of no tribe until Mashiach comes. Because he doesn't come from a Jewish father, even though he's a Jew, because his mom is a Jew, but he's not part of any tribe. This is the same thing when it comes to converts. Converts are not part of any tribe. The Mashiach, Tzidkenu, when he comes, will decide which tribe everybody is in, and tell us which tribe everybody else is in. But nonetheless, this person that came from an awful situation, l'avdil, from converts that are righteous and convert for the right reason, the point is, this guy, he came out of the wrong place. He came out of the wrong place, and he in essence wasn't part of a tribe, and he went out of this Beit Din. He did not like the judgment. Did not feel like he's getting the love of a Jew that in essence he felt he's supposed to get, he's entitled to get, and therefore he cursed HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. They heard him, they arrested him, and then they waited for Moshe Rabbeinu to bring the judgment again from HaKadosh Baruch Hu of what to do with this person. And the final judgment was that the entire assembly will stone him to death. All of those that heard the blasphemy shall lean their head upon his head first, their hands on his head first, almost like they do with the sacrifices. They push their heads down, and then the rest of them start stoning him after they throw him off the two-story building in a whole nightmarish situation. The reason why they put their hand on his head first before they stone him is because since this stoning is a result of a justice of a Beit Din, in essence, each one of the people that heard the blasphemy itself and are the first ones to hit him, are the ones that in essence brought him to trial, they're leaning their hands on his head to say that your blood is in your head, and we will not be punished for your death because you caused this to yourself. You did it. We did the right thing. We're following the Torah. Your blood is on your hands. You're the one that caused yourself to death. We're not, even though we're throwing stones on you, this is a mitzvah what we're doing. So where's the love there? As a side note, the chidush that I want to give you that I don't believe you've ever heard before, and if you did, ashrechem, is that who is this person? Who is this person that got such treatment? Why did he deserve such a thing? Rabotai? This is a extraordinary, and to keep you in suspense, we'll leave that as the final point for everything that we said. Now, first and foremost, Are we allowed to hate a fellow Jew? Are we allowed to hate somebody? So there's no better place to go than for simple explanations, literal explanations, deep explanations, all in one. You go to the Sefer HaChinuch. Sefer HaChinuch, almost 800 years ago, lists each one of the 613 mitzvot with the source of it in the Torah, as well as different reasons behind it, above and beyond the simple fact of the reason for the entire Torah, which is it's Hashem's will, but different, what they call ta'amim, different tastes of why, different flavors of why this mitzvah is not only in the Torah, but it's to our favor, it's to for the sake of us, as living better lives. So mitzvah 238 says that in the Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17, last week's parasha, Lo tisna et achicha bilvavecha. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. So the Chinuch says this is specifically referring to secret hatred. Secret hatred as expressed by the sages of the Sifra, who say that Hashem specifically stated that this prohibition of hatred is regarding hatred that is kept in the heart. Hence the reason of why he said hatred in your heart. Now, this is secret hatred of another person, and it's also mentioned in Gemara, Masechet Arachim, page 16b. Now, the reality is that secret hatred doesn't actually mean that nobody knows, like you would normally think, but rather secret hatred means that the person you hate doesn't know. Which means that even if you have told other people that you hate this person, but he himself doesn't know, it's still considered secret hatred. And you're still violating the Torah by hating this person because he doesn't know. What are you supposed to do? You're supposed to tell him, listen, you did this, and this for me. I hate you because of it. And give him an opportunity to explain himself and apologize perhaps. So the hated person, if he knows that you hate him, then it's called open hatred. If he doesn't know, then it's called secret hatred. If it's secret hatred because he doesn't know, that's this specific sin that we're talking about. If he does know, then it's actually multiple sins. What sins are those? It's, first of all, it's you don't love another Jew like you're supposed to. Second of all, you have a sin of bearing a grudge against another Jew, which is the open hatred. And number 3, you're taking revenge. So we're going to go over all of these, B'ezrat Hashem. So, first and foremost, let's see. When a person exhibits open hatred towards his fellow Jew, and thereby that person is aware that he hates him, he doesn't transgress this mitzvah prohibition, but rather he transgresses the mitzvah prohibition of you shouldn't take revenge, like we said. Now, even if a person is transgressing by openly hating another person, the hatred that's in the heart, the secret hatred, is much worse than open hatred. And in fact, it's the worst hatred of all, so much so that it's regarded as one of the most repulsive trait in the eyes of any intelligent person, the Chinuch says. Because the hatred of the heart causes the greatest evil between people. Now, where do you apply this hatred of another person? When is it a sin? When is it not a sin? Rule of thumb. The Chinuch says, a person that's transgressing this mitzvah and harbors hatred in his heart, it's only a transgression if it's hatred of an upright Jew. And it says that this mitzvah is in regards to your achicha, your brother in mitzvot. Meaning, if this fellow person, if this other person is a desecrating of the Torah, he desecrates Shabbat, doesn't keep Shabbat, he's intermarried, he is known to be a criminal, not only are you not sinning by hating him, but in fact, it's a mitzvah sometimes to hate that person. As the Gemara in Masechet Pesachim, page 113b, and also the Rambam in Ilchot Rotzeach, chapter 13, halacha number 14, says that the prohibition against hating another a person's brother, as well as the obligation to love one's fellow, applies to a person's brother and fellow in observance of mitzvot, which is somebody that's pursuing the Torah. But someone that's pursuing wickedness and is willfully desecrating the Torah, desecrating Shabbat and things of that nature, one is permitted to hate such a person openly or in secret, but you have to make sure that that hatred is the hatred of that person's sinful ways and not him personally. Not him personally. That's where a lot of people make a mistake when it comes to rebuking and so on. They start hating people specifically. That's a mistake. You're not supposed to hate the person specifically, start making fun of his looks and things of that nature. That's wrong. You're hating the sin specifically, and you're hating him because of that sin. That's the key that's important. Now, there's no prohibition whatsoever involved in hatred against evildoers, against people that are wicked, the Chinuch says. Rather, it's a mitzvah to hate them. After you have rebuked them many times regarding their sins, and yet they refuse to do tshuva from their evil ways. It's a mitzvah to hate them at this point, as it says in Psalm 139, verse 21, Alo misanecha Hashem esna, for indeed those who hate you, Hashem, I hate them. And those who rise up against you, I quarrel. So, here's a source in regards to brief explanation of the mitzvah of hatred. What about, but it says you have to rebuke them first. You can't just hate somebody just because you saw him driving on Shabbat. At the very least, you have to tell the guy, listen, you know, you're a Jew. Jews are not allowed to drive on Shabbat. If you're a Gentile, you're allowed to drive on Shabbat. If you are an elephant, you're allowed to drive on Shabbat. If you're a monkey, you're allowed to drive on Shabbat. But if you're a Jew, not allowed to drive on Shabbat. Simple. He doesn't understand, continues to drive on Shabbat. Next time you tell him, listen, I told you not to drive on Shabbat, but maybe I guess I got to give you some sources. Let me show you something. And you show the guy a video, you show him something in a book, and so on and so forth. Explain to the guy, now to drive on Shabbat. And you do this multiple times, and the guy simply just ignores everything that you're saying, and in fact laughs at you in your face. That's a person that you've already rebuked. You've showed him, and he continues to ignore everything, cares less, continues to drive on Shabbat, continues to desecrate Hashem's name. Mitzvah to hate such a person. Now, what about the obligation to rebuke? How do we know this? We're commanded, the mitzvah number 239 says that we're commanded to rebuke a fellow Jew who has not conducted himself properly, whether it's regarding matters between man and his fellow, which is personal matters, or it's matters between man and God, which is the observance of the Torah and mitzvot, as it's stated, and also same exact place, Leviticus 19:17, which is Ocheach tocheach et amitecha. You must rebuke your fellow. Now, how do we know, the Chinuch says, how do we know that we have to rebuke a person more than one time? How do we know? We learn this from the verse itself. The sages of the Sifra say, the actual verse itself says, you must rebuke your fellow. Why does it say why doesn't it just say, rebuke your fellow? Why does it say you must rebuke your fellow? To show us that even if you have already reproved your fellow Jew regarding a sin 4 or 5 times, and he still did not do tshuva, you are obligated to reprove him yet again. And the Torah teaches us that you surely reprove him to such an extent. The Gemara, Masechet Bava Metzia, page 31a, says, Afilu mea pe'amim. You shall reprove him even if it's 100 times. Even if 100 times are necessary to get him to do tshuva. Now, what about private rebuke, public rebuke? When do we do this? When do we rebuke him publicly? People think that if they see somebody post a picture of, let's say, something immodest on the internet, you're allowed to publicly rebuke him. On the other hand, if somebody cheated you in business, you're allowed to publicly rebuke him. Do a protest outside of his office, or like some of these people are doing, protest with the agunot. They go outside protesting to embarrass the guy because he's sinning and so on and so forth. Are you allowed to do such things? If somebody stole money from you, are you allowed to publicly insult this person and rebuke him because technically he stole from you, cheated you, and so on and so forth? You caught your loved one cheating on you. Are you allowed to publicly disseminate this to the whole world? She's a liar, she's a cheater, he's a liar, he's a cheater, he's a adulterer, he's a garbage. Are you allowed to do all these things? Technically you're saying, listen, he's doing something wrong, I'm rebuking him. What's the problem with it? It's very important to know. The very same place that says you must rebuke your brother, your fellow, says velo tisa alav chet, but don't let it bring you to a sin. Meaning, don't do it in the wrong way. What's the wrong way? This teaches us that when first setting out to rebuke a sinner, it's proper for a person to rebuke the sinner in private, using a soft language, gentle words, so that the sinner will not become embarrassed. However, there's no doubt that if there's no doubt that the sinner is not repenting of the sins as a result of this more discreet manner, we may then humiliate the sinner publicly, publicizing his sins, degrading him for it, until he returns to the good path and repents. Don't conclude anything yet. This is, again, like I said, brief first few words. If you rebuked him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many times, doesn't do tshuva, here he's telling us you can go public with it. But is it really that simple? No. You have to pay attention to the words, and we're going to get to that in a moment. One of the purposes of the mitzvah of rebuking, Rabotai Yekarim, is actually to bring peace. It's to bring peace. This is confronting another Jew. That is to express your disapproval of his behavior, is how we bring peace between people. Because when a person sins against another person, the wrong party gently reprimands the wrongdoer in private. The wrongdoer will normally apologize. And then you would accept the apology and will make peace with him. But if the wrong party does not reprimand the wrongdoer, he will inevitably harbor this hatred towards him in the heart. And he will come to harm him soon after or later. As we saw from the story of Avshalom and his brother Amnon, where Avshalom hated his brother Amnon because he raped his sister, but he never told him anything about it, and he waited for him a few years until he ended up killing him. So we see here that rebuke is one of the ways that we actually solve a lot of the bigger crimes that ever happened to our nation before they happened, because instead of keeping it in your heart and eventually taking revenge when you get that chance, you tell the guy, you did this wrong to me. That's it. You give the guy a chance to say I'm sorry or explain himself. Maybe he's actually right, and so on and so forth. Once you do it, that's how you bring peace to Am Yisrael. If you don't do it, you'll definitely end up hating the guy, and you'll end up violating that mitzvah that we already talked about. So that's why all the ways of the Torah, when I say that Darkei Torah, Darkei Noam, that all of the ways of the Torah are the ways of pleasantness, that's in essence what it means. It doesn't mean that you just talk nice to everybody all the time, regardless of what they do, but rather everything, even the things that seem harsh, are going to bring pleasantness to the world, even if it is a rebuke. Now, among the laws of this mitzvah there's an obligation of the mitzvah of rebuking a fellow Jew applies until the point of this person striking you, meaning that person has the obligation to rebuke over and over again until he's either threatened, and some say actually the other person hits him. But if this person is a violent person, where you know that if you rebuke him, he could surely put your life at risk, then you have no obligation to rebuke that person whatsoever. There's a time that it's a mitzvah to rebuke, there's a time that it's not a mitzvah to rebuke. Now, nevertheless, the chinuch says, every person of conscience ought to reflect and be very diligent regarding these matters. He should consider and determine whether there could be a benefit to his words to the sinner after he rebukes him. For if there's even a possibility that the sinner will listen to his words, he's therefore obligated to rebuke him. And in the case he's scared, or she's scared that this sinner might physically harm them, they should have emunah in Hashem, and He will assist them in battling their enemies, and have their he should not have their heart be scared in any way, because Hashem protects those that love Him and destroys all of the people that are wicked. And if he succeeds, he'll be blessed accordingly. As Shlomo Melech says, 310 worlds for every person you help him do tshuva. On the other hand, whoever has within their power the ability to rebuke another person and cause another person to do tshuva by protesting against their sinful actions and does not do it, the Torah tells us that such a person is then themselves held responsible for that sinner's misdeeds. Meaning, you see this person is violating Shabbat, you have the ability to rebuke him, and you choose not to. Every week you see him driving on Shabbat, you never say a single thing. Perhaps you're the rabbi of the community, or you're the president, or you're just simply a known member of the community, and you know these people are driving on Shabbat, and nobody's saying anything. You continue staying quiet, you are also going to be judged as a mechalel Shabbat. Why? You have access to those people. You go to the same shul with them for a few years already. You still see them drive on Shabbat, you don't say anything, and Shamayim, they'll count you as a mechalel Shabbat. This is why it is not worth it to go to a shul that has a large portion of the people desecrating Shabbat. Why? Because even if you have a kosher minyan, let's say you have 10, 20 people that keep Shabbat, but you have 80 people that drive on Shabbat, and the rabbi, he is, he's a banker, he's a businessman. He doesn't care about rebuking people. He cares about, taking their money. So he doesn't say a single thing. And you're sitting in that kehillah praying, and you know that 80% of the kehillah, 50% of the kehillah is driving on Shabbat, driving on Yom Kippur, does all the sins in the world, and no one is saying a single thing, and you see them year after year, nothing changes. You staying quiet is a very, very big mistake. Why? Either leave the community, go somewhere else that has more religious people, or start crying foul, saying, listen, Rabotai, I'm telling you, because the rabbi doesn't want to do it, I'm telling you, not allowed to drive on Shabbat. Or give him a CD. Or send him one of our lectures. Or tell the rabbi, you have to do a shiur about Shabbat. At least they'll hear it for the first time in their life. If they choose to continue desecrating Shabbat, okay, at the very least they heard it. But to completely stay nonchalant about it, Rabotai, unfortunately the Chinuch says, and many other places in the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, page 54, and also in the Masechet Avodah Zarah, and also the Rambam, and many of the poskim say, you see other people sinning and you stay quiet, you in essence become a partner to the sin. So much so, Rabotai, this mitzvah is so important to rebuke people, so much so that even someone that's of lesser stature has the obligation to rebuke somebody that's a higher stature, meaning you're just a regular member of the community and the president of the community is a desecrator of Shabbat, you have to rebuke him. If he desecrates Shabbat, you have to rebuke him. This actually happened many years ago. One of the greatest rabbis that of recent generations in the Syrian community, Rav Tzion Levi, alav Shalom, was Kodesh Kodashim, was a very dear friend of Rav Ovadia. He built an empire of Kedusha in Panama. But it didn't start off that way. When he came to Panama first, he was very young avrech. They came, they asked him, come be the Nekila. They wanted to build the Jewish community even further, and they brought a Talmid Chacham from Eretz Yisrael. Rav Ovadia went to Egypt. Rav Tzion Levi went to Panama. Rav Tzion Abba Shaul was in Israel. One of the other Chavut, I think Rav Baruch, went to Brooklyn. So these Chachamim, each one went to different places to spread the Torah and build communities. So Rav Tzion Levi was fire of zealousness, and he didn't take no for an answer. But it didn't start off that way. Right off the bat, he would read off the Torah on Shabbat and so on, and the president of the community, president of the shul, the one that's the richest, was a Mechalel Shabbat, and but still wanted to get an aliyah to the Torah. And he brought himself up to the Torah on Shabbat. I'm gonna have an aliyah on Torah. Rav Tzion Levi says to him, no, you're not gonna have an aliyah. What do you mean? I'm the president for all these years. What do you mean? You're not gonna have an aliyah. As long as I'm here, you're not gonna have an aliyah. You violate Shabbat, you're not gonna have an aliyah. He says, you know who I am? He says, I listen to Hashem. He says, if you don't give me an aliyah, you know what I'm going to do to you? He says, how about this? Not only you're not going to get an aliyah, but as long as you're sitting in here, I'm not going to read from the Torah at all. The guy didn't know where to bury himself from the embarrassment and the anger that he had. The whole keilah is shaking. Who is this young little avrech think he is talking to the president of the community like this? Not going to read from the Torah as long as he's here. From the anger, the president walked out, and Rav Tzion Levi continued reading from the Torah. After they finished the prayer, went home and told his wife, after Shabbat, we should pack our bags because this is probably the end. We're going to fire him. Motzei Shabbat came, Avdalah, everything, and they started packing. Suddenly they hear a knock on the wall, on the door. Open the door, sees all of the head people of the community are there. The entire community showed up to his house, to the rabbi's house, with the president in front. He's thinking they're going to lynch him. He's in a foreign country, in Panama. It's not like he's got anywhere to go. But as you would have it, because the Torah promises us, there's those that fear Hashem, dvarav nishma'im, their words will be heard. The president and the entire keilah came to Rav Tzion Levi and says, Kvod Harav, I came here to say, I'm sorry. You are right. From now on, whatever you say, that's what we're going to do. And that's how Rav Tzion Levi built an empire of Kedusha. An empire of Kedusha in the Syrian community that impacted it all over the world, not just there. Started that way. Why? He stood up for the Emet when it didn't make sense to anybody. Didn't make sense to anybody. So, Rabotai, even someone that's in a low level has this obligation. A woman, a man has this obligation. And a person that does not fulfill this mitzvah has violated the mitzvah obligation and is considered among the Reshaim. Person that does not rebuke people in some way or another, directly rebuking them or indirectly rebuking them. You don't have to always talk to people. You could just simply share a lecture with them that talks about their sins. You see that they're desecrating Shabbat, you see that they're intermarried, you see that they're eating non-kosher. Find a lecture from a fiery speaker that wakes up people that are spiritually dead. Send it to them. Give it to them on a regular basis. Do your best to help them. That's a rebuke. Invite them to a lecture. That's a rebuke. Get them to at least find out what the emet is. But staying quiet makes the person that's not rebuking the chinuch says among the reshaim. Mikat areshaim sheosim ken. Think that you keep Shabbat, that's enough. You think that because you give tzedakah, that's enough. It's not enough. Why? We're obligated. So what about embarrassing them? Okay, the guy desecrates Shabbat, I can embarrass him. Rabotai, here, this is a very, very important part of the teaching. Because we know that once a person, in mitzvah number 240, prohibition of embarrassing a fellow Jew. From here we learn that a person that malbin pnei chavero berabim en lo chelek le'olam haba, a person that publicly embarrasses another Jew and has no share of the world to come. But you just said you're allowed to publicly embarrass. When are you allowed to publicly embarrass again? After you rebuke once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times, when are you allowed to go public with this? Listen to this, it's a very, very important teaching. The Chinuch says in Mitzvah 240, in regards to the laws of embarrassing a fellow Jew in public, that the sages of blessed memory say that we were not warned against humiliating a fellow Jew in all situations of rebuke. Rather, only when the rebuke pertains to matters that are between a man and his fellow, meaning there's personal grievances, for which a person reprimands another person who has wronged him personally. When attempting this type of rebuke, one must be careful never to humiliate another person in public, even after confronting him in private to no avail. However, regarding heavenly matters, that is, that rebuking a sinner for being a derelict when it comes to mitzvot, desecrate Shabbat, and so on and so forth, if the sinner does not do tshuva as a result of the rebuke initially attempted in private, it is a mitzvah to embarrass him in public and to publicize his sin and to disgrace him and condemn him until he returns to the path of good, as was the practice of the prophets towards the sinners of Am Yisrael. Here, Rabotai, is the key secret. When are we allowed to publicly embarrass people? When are we forbidden from embarrassing people? If it is an issue between one person and another, he wronged you, you wronged him, it's never allowed to go in public. Never. There's no amount of times. Never allowed to go in public. All of these people that are doing public protest about somebody that wronged them, stole from them, and so on, it's not a good idea. Why? Even though you have been wronged, you are now doing even more wrong than them. You're doing even more wrong than them. Personal issues stays private even after 100 personal rebukes. But when it comes to desecration of the Torah, desecration of Hashem's name, even after a single rebuke, you see that he's simply ignoring you, you are allowed to go public. And in fact, it's a mitzvah to go public and embarrass him in public. That's why the Shulchan Aruch says, someone that speaks during the prayer in shul, you're rebuking in private, now doesn't listen to you, mitzvah to publicly embarrass him in front of everybody. Disgrace him, insult him, and so on, until he gets to the point, stops talking in shul. Why? This is too big of a sin, the Shulchan Aruch says. Why is it too big of a sin? Everybody in the Kehillah's prayers are being put on hold because this guy is talking in shul. So therefore, it's too big of a sin for him to even pay for. You have to shake the ground. But that's because this is not one person to another type of sin. This is a desecration of Torah. It's Chilul Hashem. When you talk in shul, it's Chilul Hashem. So that's, Rabotai, why you're allowed to publicly embarrass such a person. Now what about taking revenge? This guy did something to you. You're allowed to take revenge? Mitzvah number 241, also based on the verse Leviticus 19:18. Lo tikom v'lo titor et bnei amecha. You shall not take revenge, and you shall not bear a grudge against the members of your people. Where in essence, this is the Chinuch says, this is a case one is not a person does not have to actually do something openly, actively, in order to be one that's taking revenge. Why? It's just like, it gives the example, if somebody came to you and said, listen, can I borrow you came to a person and said, can I borrow a hammer? And he says, no. And you know he has 3 hammers in the house. No, I don't have. Okay, next day he comes to you. He says, can I borrow a knife? And you say, no, that's revenge. Yeah, but he did it to me. So what if he did it to you? Just because he's a Rasha doesn't mean you're allowed to be a Rasha. Even more so, Rabotai, if a person says, listen, I'll give you my knife, but that's because I don't do what you did. I don't do what you did. Even though you didn't give me the hammer, even though you had 3 of them, I'm still going to give you my knife. Guess what? It's not a mitzvah, you have just made a sin of holding a grudge. Now, what about the guy that got embarrassed? He talked bad about you while you were gone. You went down. You went out of town. By the time you came back, there was posters all over the street that you are like the worst person on planet Earth. And you didn't do any of this stuff. Are you allowed to keep a grudge against this guy? I mean, technically, he did bad to you, right? Torah says not allowed to take revenge, not allowed to keep a grudge. Why? Chinuch gives the explanation of a lifetime. It was worth it to come to the world just to listen to this part. The purpose of this mitzvah, the Chinuch says, is the person must know intellectually that instead of focusing on taking revenge and how come he did this to me and how come she did this to me and how could she say this and how could he say this and so on and so forth. Instead, they should use the Torah as a tool to remind them to internalize what's happening in their life at that moment when they're being embarrassed or they were hurt by somebody. Internalize this into their consciousness, the idea that everything that is happening to them, whether it's good or it's bad, is orchestrated specifically by a Kadosh Baruch Hu himself. And it's not from the person. It is brought to you by Hashem himself, may his name be blessed, where he's simply using the hands of man to do his will. Everything is the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This guy was simply used to bring you embarrassment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu signed off on. So therefore, when a person causes you pain and suffering, you must realize that it's your own sins that caused the suffering. And Hashem, may his name be blessed, decreed this injury or suffering upon you because of that. And you must not focus your thoughts upon exacting revenge against the person that harmed you, since that person is not really the true cause of your suffering. He's simply a tool that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is using. Your sins are the cause. You are the cause of your suffering, not him. And a person should instead focus his thoughts and his feelings on doing tshuva, just like David HaMelech that was cursed by Shimi ben Gera in front of all of his people. It says in the book of Samuel 2, chapter 16, verse 11, leave him and let him curse, for Hashem, blessed be he, has told him to. That David HaMelech blamed the matter on his own sin rather than on the antagonist Shimi ben Gera. And a person should simply take this into account, that all of the suffering that you have, that you think that she caused you and he caused you to yourself. There's no reason for you to be mad at these people. Now, surely they'll be punished for whatever they're doing and why Hashem used them as a tool to hurt another person. But nonetheless, you shouldn't be mad at them at all. There's no reason for you to take revenge. Why? You are the reason. You are doing something for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring you this something as a result. If you did good, you would have gone good. If you did bad, you're getting bad. Simple. Simple. Furthermore, there's a great benefit to be found in the fulfillment of this mitzvah, the Chinuch says, whereas it serves to put a stop to all fighting and to wipe away all enmity in people's hearts, for ultimately it'll bring peace to Am Yisrael. Why? Because once you know that all bad that happens to you, that's coming from the mouth and actions of other people, is your fault and not theirs, they're just being used as tools, You can't fight the hammer for hitting you in the head. It's a hammer. You can't be upset at the shark for biting you. It's a shark. That's what they do. You have to be upset at yourself. How come I got myself to this point? Therefore, once you understand it's not their fault, but rather your fault, there's nothing to take revenge over. There's nothing to be vengeful about. And the reality is, Rabotai, that if a person violates this mitzvah and continues to bear a grudge against his fellow Jew, again, always remember, fellow Jew, person that keeps mitzvot, not a wicked person that desecrates the Torah. He keeps the grudge against his fellow Jew. He now becomes the cause of even more pitfalls and more damage that will happen to his life. Meaning, this guy said some lashon hara about you and publicized that you are a pedophile, publicized that you're a terrible person, publicized that you're a thief, publicized that you're whatever you are. Okay? Now, surely he's going to get punished by Hashem. Surely he needs to say, I'm sorry. But you, regardless of whether he says I'm sorry or not allowed to have any grudge against him or take revenge against him in any way, shape, or form, because it's all your fault for your sins that you've done. Which means that if you still keep a grudge against this person, you say, I hate this guy, guess what? You are now bringing even more bad to your life because you're now making even more sins. You already made enough sins to bring the current embarrassment to your life. Now you're making even more sins to bring even worse things to you. And that's what the Chinuch says. You now become the cause of extensive pitfalls to yourself because of the further sin. And instead of doing tshuva, the guy is hating people. And that's why mitzvah number 242 says, Lo tikom velo titor et bnei amecha. You shall not bear a grudge against members of your people. That we're commanded not to bear a grudge. We're prohibited against bearing a harboring in our hearts wrong that other fellow Jews have done to us. Again, remember, always observant Jews. If they're not observant, none of this stuff relates to them, unfortunately, because they're excluding themselves from the nation. Now, all of this comes from the teachings that we talked about, loving your fellow Jew. Mitzvah number 243 in the Chinuch says, is an obligation to love each and every fellow Jew with the love that one has for himself. That's to say that we must be concerned for every single Jew and their property. You should care about his house, his well-being, as much as you care about your house. Very, very difficult mitzvah because most people are selfish. Point being is that there's certain rules of thumb. Don't do things that you don't want people to do to you. Very simple, very logical. Now Rabbi Akiva says, you shall love your fellow Jew as yourself. This is a great principle in the Torah. Comes originally from Hillel. What is that to say? What does that mean, that the entire Torah is just love everybody? No. Says the Chinuch, and this is the real meaning. That's why the Khatam Sofer brought the rebuke to everybody to say that everybody that's turning the Torah into simply their own tool to fix their own life and make their community lovey-dovey, even though half the people don't keep anything, the other half are not even sure of everything, but they're all friendly. That's not loving Am Yisrael. That's not loving each other. That's not loving. That's not the Torah. Even if you're friendly with each other, you help each other out, that's not loving each other. If you loved each other, you would worry about each other's eternity. If you're not worried about each other's eternity and you only care about being friends and having dinners together, that's loving yourself. So what does it mean to love Am Yisrael, love each other? It's a big principle in the Torah. That's to say, says the Sefer Chinuch, that many of the mitzvot in the Torah, hence the ones we just spoke about for the last hour, depend on the fulfillment of this very mitzvah of loving each other. Because one who loves his fellow as he loves himself is not going to steal from him, is not going to commit adultery with his wife, is not going to defraud him financially, is not going to hurt him verbally and cause him any type of lashon hara and rechilut and hurt him in any way. He's not going to harm him. Many of the commandments depend upon the fulfillment of this mitzvah of loving your brother. That's what it means, that it's a big klal in the Torah, it's a big principle in the Torah. Not that it's the entire Torah, it's that you cannot not hate your brother if you love him. You cannot hate your brother if you love him. It's not possible to love and hate him. You cannot keep a grudge if you love him. You understand? So that's the key. If you don't love him, surely you're going to keep a grudge. Surely you're going to do all these other things. So a person needs to know that when you're bringing rebuke, when those Jewish people went to the Beit Din and rebuked their fellow Jew that came from a rape, and he didn't like it, and he went to the Beit Din with them, and the Beit Din of Moshe Rabbeinu said, you are wrong, you're not part of any tribe, and he didn't like it, and he then cursed Hashem. Them killing him, they were fulfilling the justice. But now we have to see a little bit more color from our sages of why is he in the first place. Why did this all happen? Because the Chinuch says, instead of being upset at everybody else for telling you you're not part of the Klal Yisrael because you came from rape, instead of being upset at everybody for taking to the Beit Din and fulfilling the law, instead of being upset for being in a circumstance that you're in, you should reflect on yourself and see, why am I in this situation? Rabotai Yekarim, the Arizal says that the tum'ah of the world, the impurity that came into the world, is in the control of the Sitra Achra that was given in human form, was given to Esav, the nation of Esav. The Arizal says in Shara Gilgulim, Esav, the source of all Tumah, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Et Esav Saneti, I hate Esav, because he knew the truth. He knew he needed to do tshuva. He knew just as much as Yaakov Avinu, but he still chose to stick to his own desire and his own ego and his own everything. He is now in control of the Tumah. He's in Genom. He's going to be punished and so on and so forth. But it doesn't just end. Esav didn't end with his death. Why? Because he was given a power, the Tumah, the impurity. This is why Rabotai Karim in Sefer Shari Gilgulim, the Gate of Reincarnation by the Arizal says Esav reincarnated into Yoshke, Jesus of Nazareth. Why? Just like Esav knew the truth and desecrated it anyway, so did Jesus know the truth that desecrated it anyway. Just like Esav had the opportunity to be one of the greatest people that ever lived, Jesus had the opportunity to be one of the greatest people that ever lived. They both lost that opportunity and both are doomed for eternity. But there still remains a big question. The time period between Esav and Jesus is a huge amount of time. You're talking about something almost like 2,000 years. Hashem waited 2,000 years? No. Comes the Sefer Shefrir Tzedek by Rabbi Raphael Wolfowitz, one of the Rishonim. And he says in the Sefer that just like the Tumah of Paro went into the ocean because it was too much for the world to contain it. It had to go into the Tumah that Paro in Egypt had was 90% of the world's impurity. Such is the Tumah of Christianity. Too much for the world to contain. Had to go into a certain person. Couldn't just be in Never Land. Had to go somewhere. It couldn't be such a long period of going from the impurity of Esav, waiting all the way to Yoshke, all the way to Jesus. Had to go somewhere else. Where did it go? It went from Esav to the son of Shulamit in this week's parasha. Esav reincarnated as the son of Shulamit, the blasphemer, who cursed Hashem because he did not like the law, did not like the din of the bedin. And just like the blasphemer's mother brought him to the world because of our immodesty and immorality, when he got reincarnated from also a sinful way, where the Mary Magdalene, Imach Shema V'zichra, also cheated on her husband and then ended up going with some goy, Joseph, and then said, no, this is a birth, God impregnated me. It was all the nonsense that they say. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute zona. She got pregnant but didn't want to get stoned by everybody. So what did she do? She said it's a immaculate conception nonsense. The reality is, just like Jesus came from a zona, the previous carnation also was a zona, person that unfortunately did something terrible, and Shulamit did something terrible. And that's why the reincarnation shows that there is justice in the world. There is justice in the world because they both had sinful actions that stemmed from immodesty. You see, Rabotai, a person that focuses on themselves and how the world is wronging them can end up just like the blasphemer and will only bring more damage to their life. Just like the Chinuch says, a person that focuses on themselves need to do tshuva, realizes that all of the suffering they have is because of their own actions, not somebody else's actions. Yeah, but he said it to me. So what? He said it to me. He's just a pawn that Hashem is using to talk to you, because you're not Moshe Rabbeinu. He's not going to talk to you face to face. Yeah, but she said it to me and she did it to me and she got me fired. No. Hashem got you fired. He's just using her to do it. When a person understands that all suffering that come to their life is because of their actions, automatically it brings favor, brings their situation to a place of favorness in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and automatically things start moving in the right direction. It may not be as quickly as you would like, but admitting that it's your need to do tshuva is the first step of doing tshuva. This, Rabotai, is one of the failures of Esav that did not stop with Esav, but continued with the son of the blasphemer, the son of Shulamit, and continued even further with Jesus of Nazareth when he was rebuked by his rabbi, and instead of apologizing the right way and doing what he was supposed to, now things have to be my way, and that's why it says in the Gemara, Reshaim, even al pnei Gehenom lo osim tshuva. The wicked, even at the gate of Gehenom, do not do tshuva. Why? I have to be right somewhere, they say. You're not right, Habibi. You're wrong again and again and again. Even if it's multiple reincarnations, you'll still remain wrong, and the Torah will stay 100% true. This, Rabotai, I believe, is a little bit of insight about a lot of things that I think could, Bezat Hashem, if not give you chizuk, at least to give me some. So, at least one of us benefit, but I think that from some of the comments that I'm seeing, it looks like we're getting some good feedback, Baruch Hashem. With that being said, I'm going to have a little bit of a drink, and you guys can start sending me your questions. Let's see. Okay, David. If a woman is in the process of divorce, not yet divorced, can she return back to our Sephardic customs, or does she need to stay with her husband's customs until the divorce is final? Well, I mean, if she's in the process of a divorce, the main part of a divorce is the get, is the get process. That's what finalizes the divorce, not the civil court. So just to clarify that part, if she's getting if she got the get, then the divorce is final, even if the civil part is not final. But even if she has not returned to the point of, she has not received the get, but she's no longer living with her husband, then yeah, she can keep the customs of her father. Because really the only reason why she would keep her husband's traditions that are the opposite of what she grew up with is for the sake of honoring her husband. But since he's no longer really her husband, even though she's technically still married to him, he's no longer her husband in the sense that he's no longer needs her to respect him. He's no longer benefiting from her following the customs. There's no problem with her returning to our customs of our biological father. No problem. Moshe is saying, is there a problem with a woman having a picture on WhatsApp that follows all the laws of tzniut? Is it allowed or not? If it's a woman that's following all the laws of tzniut, then she would not have a picture on the internet, period. Because the laws of tzniut are very, very extensive, and you cannot say so confidently that she's following all of the laws of tzniut. Because if she's following all of the laws of tzniut, she would not have a picture anywhere, including on her phone, period. If you ask you look at the documentary that they made about Rav Elyashiv, alav shalom, and at one point, the person that was writing the story was taking a video of some of the people in the house and some pictures and so on, and these people never really saw these cameras and so on. And when one of the daughters was told by one of the family members, goes, "You realize he's recording?" She said, "Oh, no, chas v'shalom, that's all I need in my life." Meaning that what are you recording? A picture of me? What was she? Immodest? No, she's kodesh kodeshim. It's Hashem to see such a modest woman like this. The house of Rav Elyashiv? What's the problem? That's not the point. Following all of the modesty, who knows what people are going to think? So let's not go too extreme and think we're following everything. There is certain leniencies to have a woman's face if it's needed for certain professional reasons. There's a purpose for it. But I can tell you from experience that most women simply cannot contain themselves when it comes to pictures. And the overwhelming majority of pictures that women have of themselves anywhere, whether it's on the internet or social media, almost all of them are immodest, almost all of them are inappropriate, and almost all of them are sinful. And that's why anytime I see people's pictures, I usually tell them to take that off. It's not good for them, especially when I know that the person is really looking to do tshuva. If you are a woman, you should not have your picture on the internet at all. There's simply no reason for it. But why do people want to do it? Because they want to show people what they look like, they this and that. There's really no legitimate reason to do it. Unless, like I said, it's needed for work for some reason. You work at a company and they require it. That's one thing. But generally speaking, women that take pictures or have somebody taking pictures of themselves, they make certain facial remarks that make them look promiscuous or flirtatious. They wear certain clothes that are questionable, many times outright immodest. They make certain poses. Or the worst yet is, again, I'm only allowed to do this because I'm a man and I'm trying to teach you guys. The worst thing in the world is when a woman, I don't know how stupid people are, but it always baffled me, even when I didn't know any Torah. It always baffled me why people do this. But for some reason, women feel the need to take pictures of themselves and publicize them, of themselves laying down or looking like they're laying down. They take a picture and it's like their face is somewhere, and like they want somebody to look at them while they're laying down. I don't understand why a woman wants to look like a prostitute, but for some reason or another, there are religious women that sometimes do this. I don't understand it. Why do you think it's a good idea to have your picture even looking like you're laying down or in such fashion? I never understood that. If I was married, chas v'shalom, to a woman like that, I would get divorced the first day. First day, my wife puts a picture like this, I'm getting, forget, there's no talking to such a person. You want the world to see you laying down? What does the matter with you? But unfortunately, Rabotai, people don't think like this. Why? They saw so much filth on the internet. They saw so much garbage on TV. They saw so much garbage in the media. They don't even think there's anything wrong with it. They think, why? I'm just looking like everybody else. So don't divorce them, like I'm saying. Don't yell at them and scream at them. No, understand. They are unfortunately a product of a disastrous educational system. So tell her, in a way, either listen to him, and after you get scared, listen to him calm down and tell you the truth. It's not appropriate. You are not public property. You should not make yourself public property, giving people ideas of what you look like in certain ways. Unfortunately, many women do this. Even, I don't know, intentionally, unintentionally, it's hard for me to believe people can be that dumb, but unfortunately it does exist in the world. I know that every single time I've ever told a woman they should change her picture, Baruch Hashem, so far so good. Every woman has taken her picture off and changed it usually to something else. Sometimes they'll change it to some flower or some house or something that's not them, and sometimes they'll change it to simply a different picture, more appropriate, at least closer to being appropriate picture of themselves. Nonetheless, those women that have the pictures of themselves laying down or their hair against the wind, or I don't know, they're on like something of a provocative position, like a woman like this is what we're talking about in this week's parasha, Parashat Emor. That was Shulamit. That was Shulamit. That's what the parasha is warning us about. It's not that she was promiscuous with other men. She wasn't. She got raped. But the Torah still mentions her and the bad fruits that came from her. Why? Because it started with her. How? Hey, how are you? Is he your husband? No, it's just a guy. Wait, he's just a gardener. Can't say hi to the gardener? No. No, you can't say hi to the gardener. Why? He's not your husband. You need something? You need something? No? Okay, goodbye. That's it. You don't have to be nasty to them, but don't be friendly. He's not your friend. Oh, it's hot outside today. What are you, the weather system? Why do you want to talk to another guy? Why do you want to put yourself in front of a sin? This is the problem. Rabotai, I'll tell you this. I've seen a lot. And I continue to see a lot. And probably all the stories that I tell you are not even 1% of 1% of the things that I see every day. People don't think it's a big deal. And they think that I'm just a fanatic and crazy and so on. First of all, everything that I'm saying to you is halakha. Second of all, even more so, when you see the damage that I see, you can't help yourself but cry on a regular basis. I had a woman come to me. Baruch Hashem, I never saw a picture of her. But somebody else did. And she sends me a message and she says to me, listen, Rabbi, I have a serious problem. What's the problem? I'm thinking about leaving my husband and 4 kids. I said, Shem Yishmo, why, he cheat on you? No. What, is he a psychopath? No. Murderer? No. Rapist? No. Pedophile? No. What's wrong with him? Why would you leave such a guy? What does he do with his life? He learns Torah. Shem Yishmo. What's wrong with Torah? What happened? No, I'm in love with somebody else. What? When does a frum woman with 4 kids have time to love somebody else? How did you meet such a person? She says to me, Rabotai, I met him on WhatsApp. I met him on WhatsApp. How do you meet somebody on WhatsApp? It's not even like the other garbages in the world, Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff that you're actually supposed to be social. WhatsApp, it's not social media. It's a way to communicate with people you already know, not meet people. But the filthy Yetzirah, the Malach HaMavet, is so evil that he actually gives people the idea, hey, look, there's so many people in the Torah group. Let's look at what other Jews are in the Torah group. And they start looking at the Torah groups that they're in, the kosher groups that they're in, and they see people's pictures. And he sees a religious Haredi woman is puckering her lips. Oh, she looks like a nice lady. Maybe she knows somebody that she can introduce to me. Before you know it, he falls in love with her. Before you know it, she falls in love with him. 4 kids, a husband, garbage. Why? I met him on WhatsApp. For anyone that's been following my lectures for years, knows the story already, and Baruch Hashem knows that we put a stop to that disaster before it was too late. We had to take some extra measures to do it, but nonetheless, Baruch Hashem, the divorce never happened. The husband, till this day, I don't believe he knows, at least not for me. And they're still married, but nonetheless, there was literally, I found this out while I was on a plane coming from New York to Florida because I was doing a lecture at the time. A woman tells me she wants to leave her husband because she had a picture on WhatsApp, and that led to disaster. So please, ladies, you are the daughters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're not public property. Your pictures do not need to be everywhere. The only one that should benefit from your beauty is somebody that's paying for it every single day with his life. It's called your husband. Nobody else. Nobody else needs to see your picture. That's a reality. That's, if you ask me, that's what you should do. You want to do something else? Suit yourself. But I'm never going to tell you that you should put your pictures online. There's simply no reason to do it because of so many problems that it could bring. So many problems that it could bring. Even if you put a modest picture, Satan is not going to, you open the door for the Satan. Even if it's a small crack. Lapeta chatat rovetz. In the book of Sefer Bereshit, Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Cain, you leave a little opening, you're finished. Little opening, not big one. You didn't go like Shulamit, say hello to everybody. But you left a little opening. What's a little opening? I put my profile picture on with little puckered lips. Finished. Needless to say, if you look like what we talked about, laying down, this and down, jumping, this, all that filth. Hashem yishmor v'yatzil. Hashem yishmor v'yatzil, Rabotai. I've seen so many horrible things that are happening to Klal Yisrael. But, dameh and bam. Their blood is in their own hands. Their blood is in their own hands. Everybody's doing it to themselves. This is not, it's not a secret. So please protect yourself, protect your bodies, protect your neshamot. Don't just treat them like it's a garbage that everyone is allowed to see and touch and everything. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. There's really no legitimate reason. One woman told me that when I told her remove the picture, she removed the picture for a day, but then the next time she contacted me, the picture was back. I said, but I thought you removed the picture. No, my husband wants to see me. Your husband needs to see you on WhatsApp every time you text him? You actually think I'm going to believe that lie? Why do you even contact me if you think I'm the dumbest person on earth to believe such a thing? You actually think I'm going to believe something that your husband needs to see your face every time you text him on a small, tiny little circle, and that's why you put back your picture? You actually think I bought that lie? And even if I bought that lie, you think Kadosh Baruch Hu bought that lie? Especially when it's an immodest picture. Shem Yishmo. And then people are surprised. Oh, he wants to leave me. Oh, she left me. They're surprised they're getting divorced after 4 or 5, 6 years. 4 or 5, 6 months. Surprised. What's surprising? You were married to 50 men while married to one. What's the surprise? You were married to 50,000 women while married to one. What's surprising that you're divorced? What's surprising that you're miserable in your marriage? What's surprising? ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. Don't follow your eyes, don't follow your heart. Your eyes don't look, your heart don't get the desire to make somebody look. Why? That's what's going to cause you to sin, Rabotai. That's what's going to cause you to sin. That's why we say it every single day. In our tefillah, every day. We say this after the Shema Yisrael. Every single day a Jew has to say this. A woman and a man has to say this prayer. Why? The beginning of all sins start with the eyes. Either the eyes of you looking or the eyes that you are attracting. Please protect yourselves. Protect yourselves. Mamash chaval. It's mamash a shame. A shame that people are just, they work so hard to keep mitzvot and donate and do good things, but they're still going to go to Gehinnom. Mamash, it's just a sad thing. For what? Because she wants to put a profile picture up. Because she wants to be on the internet and make videos of herself. For what? For what? What do you have to make a video for? Oh, I want to teach Torah. Okay, teach Torah just with your face. Why do you have to make your whole outfit part of the video? Why? For what? What is the need for that? What is the need to have your picture of the whole you everywhere? What does the whole world need to see you for? For what? Even if you see guys speaking, I'm speaking to you right now. Do you see my legs? Does anybody even know if I have legs? Maybe I'm a demon. Maybe I have chicken legs. Does anybody know? Nobody knows. But how come every woman, she makes speeches, you can see half the torso, if not the whole thing? How come? Because it's all Satan. It's all Satan. All Satan, Rabotai. We've had the discussion a million times of whether to start adding female teachers to our platform, and every single time we get the same conclusion from the Rabbaniyot themselves. From my Rabbanit, from my Ephraim's Rabbanit, no. Why? Too many problems can happen with it. Yeah, but she's a good speaker. Let her be a good speaker somewhere else. We can't. Why? Too much risks. Too much risks. If there's a 1% chance that that's going to lead to a divorce, 1% chance that that's going to lead to some type of shlom bayit problem, 1% chance going to lead to wasting seed, it's not worth it. 1,000 lectures of helping people is not worth one sin. Not worth one sin. But people make lectures with the woman, with the whiz. She makes sure that she wears the extra long wig, longer than the exile. 2,000 years was suffering. She wants to make another 2,000 years with the long wig and the thin this and the this, that. Hashem yishmor v'yatzil. What did it start with? Small little picture. It's inappropriate. No one said anything. So thank you for the question, Moshe. You got me a little fired up, but that's the reality. Marishka is asking, can doctors be in the room with patients of opposite gender alone in the room while they are examining them? How about same-gender patients who are known to be gay, lesbian? Should they be treated opposite gender? Okay, so I'll answer the second question before the first question. As far as gay and lesbian people, according to the Torah, they are not to be treated differently as far as whether he thinks he is a woman or he thinks he's a man, doesn't make a difference. He is going to be treated as a man. He's not allowed to go into a female bathroom. He's not allowed to be treated like a female. He can call himself a female until he's blue in the face. All he is mentally sick. So there is no such thing as treating a patient the way they want to be treated when it comes to gender. You were born a male, you'll die a male. You were born a female, you'll die a female. Even if they change their organs, even if he put a chest and this and that, he did all the surgeries, still treated like a man. Still treated like a man. Why? He's 100% a man. Still 100% a man. It's a very complicated issue of how much sins he's making. Can he do tshuva b'klal? Because you can't undo that stuff. It's a very, very complicated issue, but nonetheless, he's treated 100% as a man. Doesn't make a difference that he put hormones in his body and he looks like a woman. Doesn't make a difference. He's 100% a man. And I've even talked to some people like this that have done surgeries and lived a life like that, and every single one of them has told me they regret it. Every single one of them. In the beginning, with the craziness and the attention, everyone thinks that they are the next best thing. You give them a few years and the attention goes away, every single one of those people regrets them. Regrets their decision of living a life of homosexuality, regrets their life of living a life of LGBT and this T and that T and Genom, and it's very, very difficult for them to change. But nonetheless, Baruch Hashem, we've succeeded in helping some of them do tshuva, abandon their bad ways, and at the very least, make the best of their current circumstances. But nonetheless, it's not an easy situation. Not an easy situation. Now, as far as going to a doctor, generally speaking, a person needs to go to the best possible doctor available, but at the same token, take modesty into account. Meaning, if you are a male, it's preferable that you go to a male doctor. If you're a female, it's preferable that you go to a female doctor. But if the best doctor is a male, you're, let's say, a woman, you're pregnant, you need a gynecologist, you need you need a doctor that knows what they're doing. But the woman, the female doctor that's available that's in your community has terrible reviews or horrible treatment, bad reports, and so on, or not necessarily known as the best. But there's a male that is known as the best doctor. He has a good reputation, good record, a lot of good reviews, and so on and so forth. You're allowed to go to the male doctor, even though he's going to see the most intimate part of your body on a regular basis. Why? Because the Gemara says, since he is occupied with his profession, he's not thinking. If he's a normal doctor, he's not thinking about those things. Unfortunately, in this generation, there have been some people that are mentally sick, but that usually has to do more with people that are involved with like plastic surgery, more so than gynecology. But nonetheless, you have to obviously do your best to go to a Jewish doctor that observes mitzvot. If you have a Jewish doctor that observes mitzvot, that's preferable about everybody. And there's a reason for it, not just because it's good for modesty reasons where they know what to do and so on, but also the Jewish doctor, especially when it comes to delivering babies and so on, is going to know certain things that the non-Jewish doctors are simply not going to know. Like, for example, and I've told this to one of my students, and some of them listened, some of them didn't listen. The ones that listened benefited, the ones that didn't listen regretted it, and it's sad. But, people think I just say things, I don't know, like a marketing company or something. Here it goes. If you go to a non-Jewish doctor, that non-Jewish doctor, even if he or she is very good, will treat you just like the rest of the world. They'll do their best, they'll use their expertise, and so on and so forth. But if you go to a Jewish doctor, that Jewish doctor is going to know, and I'm talking about an observant doctor, not just Jewish because his mom is Jewish. Jewish because they're Orthodox doctors and they know the halachas of family purity. That doctor is going to know, first and foremost, that modesty is very important to you. And very important to them also because they're Orthodox. So they're going to be a lot more careful as far as, what they do than the non-Jewish doctor. Sometimes with these non-Jewish doctors, you see pictures of half-naked people in pictures on the walls of their offices. You see some of their staff walking around like this. You see them leaving the door open with their patients still laying down. They don't care about modesty. Because to them, it's, well, what's the big deal? Everybody here is pregnant. Everybody here is naked. Everybody here is this and that. They don't think there's much of a big deal out of it. In the Jewish world, obviously, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. So you have to be very careful with it. Now, the doctor is occupied with his profession, so we don't suspect him from looking at the woman inappropriately. But the other people in the office, the other patients, the other people, they're not occupied with anything. They see you in an immodest way. Shem Yishmol. So you have to, number one, know that. Number two, also, they're not going to touch you unless they absolutely need to. They're not going to uncover something unless they absolutely need to. So if you live in a religious community and you have an opportunity to go to a Orthodox doctor, for sure it's a better choice. Last but not least, it's most critical in the delivery. Why? Because one of the difficult things that people have is that usually during the last, maybe month or however long it is, depending on the woman, there is really practically no intimacy, even more than that, 2-3 months even sometimes for certain women, with the husband, because it's very hard for her to be intimate with a husband during that time. And it's a reality. It's a simple reality that she can't do it, and she doesn't want to do it, and it's painful for her, and so on and so forth. So unless she married some dog, he's going to understand that. But that also means that he's going to be counting the seconds practically after she delivers the baby to wait for her to heal up and be able to be together again. Now, if you go to a traditional non-Jewish doctor or a secular doctor, that doctor will deliver the baby, do the best they can, whatever blood comes out of the body comes out of the body, and finished. And you'll take 2, 3, 4, 5 months to finally stop bleeding, for the blood to stop coming out of your body, which means your husband pretty much has to become celibate for almost a year. Right? Not going to be a very happy husband, and it's very dangerous in regards to wasting seed. On the other hand, you go to an Orthodox rabbi, especially a female Orthodox rabbi, that knows these issues, knows the female body even better than any man could ever know, even if he is a doctor, because she herself delivered babies, she herself has seen and so on. Now, what does she do? When she delivers the baby, you don't even have to tell her, but you should, but you don't have to tell her. What does she do? She makes sure that when she delivers the baby, moments after she delivers the baby, she removes as much blood from your body as she possibly can to eliminate the unnecessary wait of months for the blood to stop coming out of your body, which means that instead of waiting 5 months, you could be waiting a month, 2 months. Now again, depending on the woman and how fast she heals and so on and so forth. But this I've seen many times. People don't take this stuff into account, and they just go to anyone because they're closest to their house or it's most convenient in some other way, and they realize, oh, I should have done this, I should have done this, and everybody does it. Everybody does it, and I've seen it myself. It's a reality. It's a reality of life. You have to take everything into consideration, Rabotai. So again, as far as your particular question, can you use a doctor that's of the opposite gender if he or she is the best? Yes. Unless you have somebody that's the same gender as you that is just as good or better, then you're obligated to use them. Obligated to use them that's just as good or better if they're the same gender as you. But if the one that's the best is the opposite gender of you, you're allowed to use them. But again, always take into account not just the modesty aspect of it, but also the religiosity of the issue. And last thing I would mention to you is also do whatever you can to avoid going to people that are religious Christians. Try to avoid going to religious Christians because many times there could be missionaries in certain aspects. So it's very hard to know all these things, but that's why again everybody should live in or at least be close enough to a Jewish community where there's enough Jewish doctors that are Orthodox that you can use. But I've had the experience personally where I went to a dentist and I talked to the guy about different things and so on. And my next appointment, before he allowed me to go into the office, he said, I want you to meet my friend. What did I meet my friend? A professional missionary for like 40 years. Debate with me for an hour. Before I was allowed to get a root canal, I had a different guy give me a root canal. Why? Because that's the mentality of missionaries. That's the mentality. They don't see right or left and so on. So you have to also take this stuff into account. Because Hashem will protect each one of us. Does the existence of the state of Israel violate the 3 oaths? No. I mean, as far as the existence of the state of Israel, there are some chachamim that were not happy that modern state Israel came into being not because of the modern state of Israel, but because it was controlled by Zionists and still is controlled by Zionist heretics that are anti-Torah. And also because some of the greatest sages, whether it's Rabbi Yaron Reuven, or Rav Soloveitchik, Rav Kotler, the Ben Ish Chai, and others, believe that if the Jews return to Israel and in essence control the place before Mashiach comes, it is in essence violation of one particular oath. But as a Rav Ovadia, alav shalom, in his extraordinary ways, told time and time again for all of the people that were so anti-Israel to the point that they didn't really see straight, where, okay, fine, you're right, the Zionists are evil, they caused us a lot of damage, they still cause us a lot of damage, there's no question about it. But the reality is, now it's after the fact, there are millions of Jews living in Eretz Yisrael, there's nowhere else to go, there's nowhere else for them to go. You can't just say, okay, you know what, let's take 8 million Jews and just, put them in America. America's not going to accept us. Let's put 8 million Jews in Australia. Australia's not going to accept us. Where are you going to put them? In Africa? There's already the Jews are already there, so let's make the best out of it. Let's make the best out of it. And Rav Ovadia says, look at how much Torah is in Israel. Look at how many yeshivot. Look at how much Kiddush Hashem is there. Yes, there is a lot of problems, but there's a lot of problems everywhere. So instead of focusing on all the bad, just like a fly is constantly looking for filth, don't be one of those people that's looking for filth everywhere. See that there is also good. Is there bad? Yes, we highlight it when it's necessary. But to only focus on the bad and just simply become one of these fanatics that hates, and doesn't even see anything good, that's not healthy either. And what Rav Ovadia says is, listen, we have a Gemara that says that when the Roman Caesar passed a decree to forbid Am Yisrael from keeping Shabbat. To forbid Am Yisrael from keeping Shabbat, we had to do something about it. So they originally sent one of the Chachamim. They sent one of the Chachamim, Rav Reuven of Istrovoli, to convince the Roman Caesar. Initially, he convinced them to give us back Shabbat in different rational ways, but eventually, when they found out that he was a Jew, they canceled everything and they said, no, not allowed to keep Shabbat anymore. So the Chachamim said we have to send somebody that knows how to handle miracles, knows to bring, something. Who can send? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Alav Shalom, we're celebrating his Ilula tomorrow. This will be for his Ilui Nishma. So the Gemara in Masechet Me'ilah, page 17b, says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai went with a couple of other sages, Rabbi Yossi's son, and they went to go speak to the Roman Caesar. It's a very dangerous road journey to go there. And as you would have it, suddenly this Shin Dalit, this demon named Ben Temalion, shows up. Hey, I'm here to help. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai starts crying. So Rabbi Yossi's son says, why are you crying, Kvod Harav? Why are you crying? He says, look at how lowly we are. Avraham Avinu, his shifcha, his maidservant, had the merit to see angels. And what do we get? A demon? That's what we get to help us. Okay, if that's what Hashem wants to send us, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, we'll make the best out of it. That's how Hashem wants to bring us the salvation. But he wasn't happy that he saw himself as so lowly that he didn't get to see an angel, he get to see a demon. That's who Hashem is sending the help through. Long story short, this demon was sent to help him. He told him, go. This demon went inside the daughter of the Caesar and made her go crazy, which from there, the Arizal also says that people that are have mental issues, the root of it is that there's some type of demon in them. It's not like people think. But the point being is that when he got to the Roman Caesar's palace, they were all occupied with dealing with his daughter that was beating up the doctors, cursing everybody, causing all types of damage, going crazy. And the Caesar said, anyone that can heal my daughter, I'll give them whatever they want. So comes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who knows exactly what's happening, says, okay, I can heal her. Oh yeah, you Jew can heal her? Yeah. He says two things. Ben Timalion, tse. Ben Timalion, tse. The demon's name, Ben Timalion, get out. Get out. He tells him to get out. He gets out. She goes back to normal. The Roman Caesar is happy-go-lucky. He says, okay, I'll give you whatever you want. You go into my treasure chest. Take whatever you want. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai goes exactly for what he wanted. Goes into the treasure chest, into the safe over there, finds the scroll of the decree that forbids Am Yisrael from keeping Shabbat and mitzvot, rips it up. That's it. Finished. Decree is gone. And they go back home. Now, comes the Rav Ovadia 2,000 years later and says, Avraham Avinu is shifcha. She got two angels. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai got Ben Timalion to bring the salvation. We got Ben Gurion. They got a demon. We got a worse one. Each generation goes down. She got angels. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai got Ben Timalion, the demon. Okay, we got Ben Gurion. We keep going lower, but at least let's make the best of it. Just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Alav Shalom, said, let's make the best of it. And that's what we have to do. So again, although there are many Chachamim, even till this day, that are very much against the existence of modern state Israel, the reality is that everybody has to face is that although there are many wicked people running the government over there and so on, there's still a lot of Kedusha there, there's still a lot of good there, and we need to also focus on that and support the people that are there, that are learning Torah, doing mitzvot, and doing all the good. And also understand the reality of things, that there's simply, there's no turning back. That's what we got, that's what we got. That's at this point, it may not have been the will of Hashem for it to happen this way, because it was supposed to come at the time of Mashiach, but in essence, what we did is, in essence, we forced the hand. So Hashem, in essence, is still bringing us the salvation in a different way, even though we forced his hand to, in essence, give us the state back. But we don't really have the state back, because it's run by a bunch of goyim that were born Jewish. So it's not exactly everything, but it's still, we have Jewish people there, we have yeshivot there, we have seminaries over there, we have Kedusha over there, we have, Baruch Hashem, a lot of good people there. And that's what we have to look at. We don't have to focus on just the bad, even though there's enough bad to talk about until next year. But the existence of Eretz Yisrael is perfectly good, and anyone that can live there and succeed there should live there and succeed there, because surely there's enough good there that's more than anywhere else. Adrian is asking question for the son. Why did the dinosaurs die? Where is it in the Torah? Somebody asked this question already, I believe, last week or the week before about dinosaurs. Parashat Bereshit. Parashat Bereshit, in the first parasha, Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling us that he created different things in each day. And on one day he tells us that he created Taninim Agdolim, the giant reptiles. Giant reptiles are exactly what dinosaurs were. That's one aspect. And Kadosh Baruch Hu destroyed them at the time of Noah, but not completely. There was still some dinosaurs that survived even after, because we see in the Midrash and also in the Gemara that there were some dinosaurs at the time of David HaMelech, which is after the flood, many years after the flood. There was a dinosaur at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, which they used for the Mishkan. There were some really big animals. There's the Re'em, that's bigger than any dinosaur that is pictured by Hollywood. The Re'em was huge. And there was other things, but the point is the majority of dinosaurs did get destroyed, just like the majority of animals did get destroyed because they sinned. The only animals that survived were animals that did not sin, which means that they did not go and become mate with something of the opposite of a different species. The sin of the human beings corrupted the land, which corrupted the animals. Where just like the men of the time of Noah started performing homosexuality and doing things that are against nature, because that's what homosexuality is. It's against nature. Every normal person knows that a man is supposed to be with a woman and a woman is supposed to be with a man. You're not supposed to be men and women like some filthy people think. And when people started acting as if this is the right way to do things, men and women, they corrupted the world so much so that they made it like a mitzvah in that day, and they wrote a ketubah, like a marriage certificate, marriage ceremony for homosexuality, very much the same like today. And they corrupted the world, which corrupted the land, because the sins of man don't just create nothing. They don't go into a vacuum. They create things. They created a tumah in the land. That land, that soil, was consumed by the animals through their food and so on. That which corrupted the animals themselves, and then the animals started behaving in things that were against their own nature, and started mating with different species, and also started behaving in the opposite of their nature. For example, unlike what we know, the lion and the sheep and so on, in the beginning, all of the animals were vegetarian. In the beginning, all the animals were vegetarian, but that changed at that time. And also, some of the animals that we know as today as very gentle animals became very vicious. Like, for example, the sheep started going against the lions and going after them. And the lions became scared of the sheep. All types of unusual things happened, things that were the opposite of the nature. So same thing with the dinosaurs. They acted against their nature, so Hashem decided that everything has to be destroyed except the animals and the people that did not sin. And that was very few. It was Noach, it was his family, it was Og and his brother Sichon. There were two giants, and there was also a couple of giant animals. The Re'em survived as well. And that's it. Let's see. Where do we get the willpower to do people get the willpower to do kiruv? Beyond sharing videos on Facebook and YouTube, but actually donating money and passing out flyers. Well, it's all part of fulfilling the mitzvah of loving your brother as much as you love yourself. If a person is fulfilling the Torah and knows what the judgment will be for a person to not fulfill the Torah, then just their fulfillment of the Torah is going to want to help other people to do tshuva, because they know that every time another person does a sin, it also hurts them. And worse yet, every person that has the opportunity to help other people and doesn't will end up seeing those people suffer. So imagine on the way to your good place, you see a bunch of your friends and family in Gehenom getting burned forever. What kind of fun is that going to be? So that's number one. Number two, there are some people that are religious, and there are some people that are aware of the consequence of not following the Torah, but nonetheless they still have a very big Yetzirah and they do not donate. So perhaps maybe the story that I'm going to tell you will give people a little bit of chizuk when it comes to that. The Seder HaDorot writes a story that happened with Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes once was praying every day 4 hours. He'd pray in the morning, and one day he found himself that he completed his prayer and his learning faster than 4 hours, and he found himself outside of the Bet Midrash synagogue in less time. And he asked himself, how could it be that, every day pray for 4 hours, I do my Avodat Hashem for 4 hours, and today I'm out of here already, and I didn't even realize that it's in less than half the time, or around that time. Like, what? Surely this means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to use me to make some type of miracle in the world. Hashem didn't make me finish everything. It's not that he did less praying or less learning. He did everything, but in less time, which means Hashem wanted him out of there. So what is it? Surely Hashem is going to bring something my way that he's using me as a tool. So he continued walking, and he sees two huge snakes on the road ahead of him talking. And Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, like many of the other sages, they knew 70 languages, including the language of the animals. So he heard these two snakes talking. And one of the snakes asked the other one, where are you going? And he says, I'm going to the home of Rabbi Yehuda Antonti. Why are you going to Rabbi Yehuda Antonti's house? He says, because it was decreed for me to kill him and all of his family, his wife and kids. So the other snake is like, he said, well, this guy overall is tzaddik. What happened? He says, because Rabbi Yehuda Antonti, although he learns Torah, although he does mitzvot, although he does a lot of things, never in his life did he give tzedakah from his money. Has a Yetzirah, doesn't give tzedakah. And in Shamayim they decreed death penalty to him and his entire family. As soon as Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes heard this, ran up in front of the two snakes, decreed, you're not allowed to pass this river. Said a special name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu using what's called Kabbalah Ma'asit, paused the snake in his spot, not allowed to pass the river, which is required to get to Rabbi Yehuda Antonti's house. Immediately, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes covers his face and goes to Rabbi Yehuda Antonti's home, gets there with his face covered, and says to the people, please, I need food. Pretends to be a poor person. Rabbi Yehuda sees him, and the kids see him. No, he's probably going to try to kill us, this person. Why is he covering his face? Get out of here. But he refuses to leave. I'm not leaving until I get some food. You feed me, I want to eat with you. They see this person is relentless. Okay, no, come, sit. And he's still covering his face, and he's eating. after they finish eating, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes says to them, give me a loaf of bread so I can take for my way. Give me some tzedakah. So Rabbi Yehuda Tonti, who again had this trait of being stingy, says to him, listen, it's not enough that you force us to give you food. Now you want even more. You don't have chutzpah. He said, give me, I'm poor, give me. So I gave you enough. At that moment, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes uncovered the mask and showed his face, and the entire house was lit up by the Kedusha, like the face of Moshe Rabbeinu lit up everywhere. The Kedusha of Rabbi Meir lit up the entire house. Immediately, Rabbi Yehuda and his kids fell on the floor and said, no, I'm sorry, here, this is Rabbi Meir, I'm sorry, this is yours, I didn't know it was you, we're sorry, and start giving the bread. Rabbi Meir took the bread and he says to Rabbi Yehuda, take your wife and your children and get them out of the house immediately. He says, where, Kvod Harav? He says, the further you take them, the better, and tell them not to come back. Not to come back, you are in a night of big danger. Rabbi Yehuda knew Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes is a giant. He's not going to say something for no reason. He takes his wife and kids, takes them to the mountains, and returns. Comes back to Rabbi Meir, says, the Gdol Ador, the biggest rabbi in the world, biggest giant, is here in my house. What now, Kvod Harav? He says, listen to me. This is a night of great danger. Whatever you do, do not leave this house. Do not leave this house. Okay, at that moment, Rabbi Meir decrees to take off the curse on the snake. Curse off the snake to allow him to pass the river. The snake comes, and he sees the snake coming into the house. Rabbi Meir says to him, what are you doing here? He says, what do you mean, what am I doing here? I'm here because I was decreed by Hashem to come here to kill Rabbi Yehuda and his family. He says, for what? He says, because he never gave tzedakah from his money. And tzedakah tatzid mimavet. Tzedakah will save your life. But he didn't give tzedakah. He says, no, you're wrong. Look, he fed me. I have bread over here that he gave me as tzedakah. You have no right to be here. The snake didn't know what to do. But Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes says not allowed to be there. So he stays outside. Closes the door. Rabbi Meir says to Rabbi Yehuda, listen to me. Do not open the door. No matter what happens, don't open the door. Rabbi Yehuda understands the rabbi is saying something, but not for no reason. Okay, fine, Rabbi. Rabbi Meir knew he's not going to hold it. He said, I'm going to stay with you. Mamash Mestirut Nefesh to save his life. Rabbi Meir stayed with him in his house. Middle of the night, he hear knocks on the door. Who's this? Who's this? Honey, it's me. I'm here. It's cold outside. Please open the door. Rabbi Yehuda gets, oh, no. Rabbi Meir says, I told you, don't open the door. He says, but Rabbi, it's my wife. He says, it's not your wife. Rabbi, I know my wife's voice. Honey, it's me. It's not your wife. Don't open the door or I'm telling you, you're going to die. The rabbi says he does. And the whole night he's knocking. Moments later, he starts hearing his kids knocking on the door. Abba, it's dangerous out here. There's animals. Creatures are out here. They're going to kill us. Please open the door. He says, Rabbi, it's my kids. He says, don't open the door. You're going to die if you open the door. Don't open the door. It's not your kids. It's not your wife. The whole night they're like this. After a while, hours of hearing this nightmare, the Satan, the Malach HaMavet, sees that Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes is not going to let this happen. And he says, woe unto me that Hashem decrees something in heaven, but the tzaddikim in earth cancel the decree. Someone has to die, he kills the snake itself. Meaning his messenger, he kills him. The morning comes, and they're allowed to open the door. Shortly after, the wife and kids come, and after the hugs and everything, he says, you guys okay? He goes, yeah, we had a great night's sleep. He said, what do you mean? You didn't come here last night? He says, no, Abba, why would we come here? He says, what do you mean? You weren't crying outside saying, Abba, please save us. It's cold outside. He goes, no, why? It was night. Why would anybody go outside at night? It's dangerous. We didn't come here. Just like Rabbi Yaron Reuven, was mamash, the Satan was on the snake. Was on the snake. At that point, Rabbi Yehuda Antonti understood what's happening here. He says, Kvod Rav, I swear that from this moment on, no man that ever comes to me and asks me for tzedakah will ever leave empty-handed. Why? Because he understood that mamash, just the Torah that he had saved his life. He had the merit to save him. But how many people have such Torah? Point being is, Rabotai, tzedakah is a very big thing. A person that does not give tzedakah, in so many words, they are, I can't say anything worse than simply saying it's the worst, most ungrateful person in the world. A person that doesn't give money for the sake of helping Am Yisrael do tshuva, publicizing Torah, is the most ungrateful person in existence that's also suicidal. Why? Suicidal because tzedakah tatimi mavit. Tzedakah will save a person in life. It's a verse in the Torah. Tzedakah can save a person's life. Ungrateful because they don't realize that all of the money that they get, 100% of the money that they get, Hashem gives them only because He simply tells them, listen, I know you need to live, I know you need to eat, I know you need to do this, but also the reason why the world exists is not because of your food and because of your expert analysis or stock picking or software development. The world exists because of Torah. So I'm giving you 100% of whatever you're getting so you can give at least 10% to publicize my Torah. If you don't give 10% of your money, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you're the most ungrateful thing in the world. Why? I gave you 100% just so you could use 10% to publicize my Torah. Not only do you not give that 10%, but every time you give $10, $20, $50, a few $100s, the few percentage points a person gives somewhere here and there, they feel like they need to get enough honor as if they just gave a lung. And that's unfortunately what happens. Sometimes people don't give anything. Sometimes people give so little, but they think it's a lot. And that's a delusional person. But nonetheless, it happens in the world. It's a very, very bad trait of being stingy. So how does a person get themselves to a point of giving money for kiruv, but not just giving money, giving a lot of money, giving at least 10% of their money on a regular basis for the sake of kiruv, for the sake of Torah? It's simply an understanding of who runs the world and a desire not to be called an ungrateful person by the Creator Himself. Anyone that loves the Creator will want to do what the Creator wants him to do and even go and do above and beyond. But nonetheless, that's the difference. That's the difference. Some people have the test, even big rabbis like Rabbi Antonti. Rabbi Antonti had this big test. It's not an easy test, but I don't think any of us have the merit to have Rabbi Meir Baranez come to our house to save us from death. So I think it's better off to just give tzedakah so the snakes don't show up. Okay, one or two more questions, then we'll finish for the night. Michael is saying, sometimes a person is motivated and excited to pray and do mitzvah, and other times not so much. Are feelings to be ignored, or prayer without feeling is lacking? Surely it's better to have more kavana when you're praying, but there is a mitzvah of praying, the mitzvah of doing the mitzvah, is still obligated whether you like it or you don't like it. You're still obligated to do it. Because if you say, no, I'm only going to do what makes me feel good or what I like to do, and then simply within a week, you're not going to feel like doing anything. Why? Because that's what the Satan wants you to do. The Satan is going to make you not enjoy the things you enjoy most. You used to enjoy praying and you wanted to pray for 2 hours. Suddenly, one Tuesday morning, you don't even feel like praying. You don't feel like praying, or you feel like praying less, or you feel like praying like half a prayer. So you follow the Yetzirah, you pray half a prayer. The next day, a quarter prayer. The next day, a tenth of a prayer. Before you know it, you don't want to pray at all. Start skipping days. And you think, okay, well, I'm at least still keeping this and keeping that. No, it doesn't end there. Satan says, if I got him on one, I got him on everything. So whether you like it or you don't like it, you do it. Why? Because you don't do the mitzvot because they make you feel good or because you're going to get a reward. You do the mitzvot because it's the will of Hashem. That's why we do everything. Surely it's better if you do the will of Hashem and also have an extraordinary feeling and excitement with it, but that's not something that's always possible for all of us, or even most of us. But needless to say, a person should do whatever they can to improve things and to help themselves, and it's not an easy job. It looks easy. It's easy to talk about, but it's definitely not easy. I can tell you myself, just to make anybody that thinks that they're alone in this aspect, they're not alone. I can tell you myself that sometimes I have prayers that, Baruch Hashem, I wish for people to pray on me, like some of the prayers that I have. And sometimes I have prayers that I honestly don't even know if they count. I know they count, but I look at myself, I say, what an embarrassment you are. What an embarrassment you are. What kind of prayer is this? If I was God, I'd throw your prayer in the garbage. Why? Because my mind is 1.5 million different things, and sometimes it's hard to focus. But the key is for us to do what we're supposed to do, whether we like it, we don't like it, we want to do it, we don't want to do it. Why? It's the will of Hashem. It's the will of Hashem, and that's the most important. One more question. Noahide's obligated to say, I feel like I don't pray enough and need help. Also, what mitzvot should Noahides do? Noahides should pray from their own words. And to do pray with your own words is not as easy as it sounds, but if someone knows how to do it, they can get to very, very deep prayers. And they shouldn't feel so alone with praying with their own words. Jews are also supposed to pray with their own words outside of their traditional prayers, which is in Hasidic world called idbodedut, where you simply talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and tell him what's in your heart. You can do that as often as possible. You should do that as often as possible. It doesn't have to be a set session of a half hour a day at a set time. It could be any time you want. You have a 5-minute break. Instead of wasting your time looking at nonsense, pray to Hashem, talk to Him about your problems. Talk to Him about what you want to do. Talk to Him what you need to do. Say, I'm sorry. Say, thank you. Go, talk to Him. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, as often as you possibly can. That's the prayer that everyone should do. All of mankind should do, not just Noahides. Jews alike. Rabbi Nachman Breslov will talk about Idbodedut very often because the Baal Shem Tov made Idbodedut a standard among Chassidut, even though Idbodedut, this type of private prayer, already existed at the time of Avraham Avinu. But nonetheless, in the Hasidic world, if you don't do Idbodedut, it's almost like you're like a half a Chassid, because it's a very necessary thing. If you're in Breslov and you don't do Idbodedut, they'll throw you to Chabad. It's like, well, I'm just kidding, but no way, you have to do Idbodedut. Have to. So that's really a recommendation for everybody. I wish I could do more of it, but point is that Noahides and Jews alike should pray with their own words and talk to Hashem and focus on thanking Him and focus on saying I'm sorry, and don't worry about the things that you want. He already knows. When you focus on tshuva, your request will come you'll come without you asking. You can ask, there's no problem of asking, but when people focus only on asking and treat Hashem like He's the ATM machine, it's not healthy spiritually. Okay, last question. As far as the mitzvot of what Noahide should do, I discussed that in a couple of lectures that I have about Noahides. Mainly, Noahides should focus on working on their character traits by learning as much musar as possible to develop their character traits, to be more generous, to be less arrogant, to be more understanding, more patient, less angry. Make themselves a better person. That's the main thing. So to learn musar, to learn the Tanakh with commentary by the sages, that's the main thing as far as what their learning is. As far as practice what you learn, specifically the publicizing of the Torah. Do as much as you can, invest as much as you can to help Jewish people learn more Torah and do tshuva and kiruv and things of that nature. That is the number one investment for all of mankind, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Im lo briti yomam v'layla, chukot shamayim v'aretz lo samti. If not for my covenant, meaning my Torah, day and night, 24 hours a day, I'll simply destroy the world. The world is occupied by Jews and non-Jews. So everyone in the world is obligated to do as much as possible to publicize the Torah, to get more people to learn Torah, and especially the Jewish people to learn more and more Torah, more so than non-Jews, because the Jews have a bigger obligation and a more responsibility to be a light to the nations. Nonetheless, when you publicize more Torah and more Jews are doing tshuva, by default, more non-Jews want to join as well, either as non-Jews or to become Jews. But either way, the more you invest into the Torah itself and to publicize it, the kiruv that we're doing and other good organizations are doing, the better you're fulfilling your mission in the world. Last question. During the last Jewish Ashkafa Shiur, you explained that people who got married by a Rasha Christian missionary are Shogeg and Nanus. With utmost respect to those couples, is it correct to say that they deserve this outcome since there was no protection from Shamayim? Would these people have looked back at their deeds to see if there's something serious that they do tshuva for? So one of the mitzvot that we have is that you must love everybody as much as you love yourself, right? And first of all, you wouldn't want anyone to say, hey, listen, you just lost all your money because you probably did something bad, which is what the friends of Job did, and they got rebuked for it. Furthermore, when Penina came, taunted Chana, her sister, or her, the other wife. I'm sorry, the other wife of Elchanan. They were both married to the same man. It was allowed at that time. She would taunt her. Oh, look at the clothes I bought my baby. When are you going to get something for your baby? Oh, I forgot you don't have any babies. And that would cause Chana to cry a lot. And what ended up happening? Finally, when the salvation came and Hashem opened up the womb of Chana, brought her Shmuel and then other babies, every single baby she had, the babies of the other wife died. After, literally, baby after baby after baby, 5 babies died, until she realized this all happened because even though she meant well, she meant to cause her anguish in order to get her to cry even more, in order for Hashem to have mercy on her. So she meant for Shemayim. Hashem says to hurt another Jew is playing with fire. To hurt another Jew is playing with fire. And because of that, even though she meant well, she got punished severely. She lost most of her sons, and the last 2, she gave them to Chana to adopt them. So at least Hashem doesn't kill them too. So to say such a thing is not a good idea, first and foremost. It's not even good to think like that. Last but not least, also you should know, there is a teachings. Amitkabed beklon chavero en lo chelek le'olam haba. Someone that takes honor in the downfall of his friend has no share of the world to come. Why? Because you are obligated not only to love your fellow Jew, you're obligated not to hold a grudge against them, you're obligated not to take revenge against them, you're obligated not to hate them in your heart. All of these things, this type of feeling, comes from a wrong place. To say, you should have done tshuva and bad things wouldn't have happened to you, you don't need to tell him that. You don't need to tell him that. You could already get him to understand it without making him feel bad about the past, by simply telling him, listen, if you do tshuva, B'ezrat Hashem, things will get better. Don't tell him, listen, you lost all your money because it's not going to help him. No one is going to do tshuva because somebody tells him, listen, you lost everything because you're a bad person. Most of the time, they're just going to hate you, even if they know what you're saying is true. So it's important to know, to be very careful with people's hearts. Be very, very careful with people's hearts. Be very, very careful with people's bodies. Rav Ovadia alav shalom, he saw Rav Elbaz. Rav Elbaz, he used to be also a moel. He did Brit Milah for thousands of children. And one time he saw him about to do Brit Milah. He says, Kvod Rav, please, before, go like this. Go like this. Kvod Rav, I washed my hands already. Rav Elbaz says to him, Kvod Rav, I already washed my hands. I did Netilah already. He goes, no. Go like this. Go like this. Warm your hands up. He says, why, Kvod Rav? Why? He says, He goes, no, it's cold outside. It's cold outside. You just came inside. You're going to take the baby's diaper off. You're going to touch his legs. And the baby's going to suffer a little unnecessarily because your hands are cold. So, warm up your hands. That's what a Gadol Adol is. What's a Gadol Adol? Why? He knows everything? A lot of people know a lot of things. What's a Gadol Adol? He cares about everything. Everything. Why? He notices. But maybe the baby will feel the cold hands. Even the parents don't think like that. The baby's going to feel the cold hands of the Moel on the Brit Milah. He's about to cut off a piece of his body. No. That's from Hashem. We need that. But the hands, that's from you. Why does he have to feel your cold hands? Same thing is with sometimes there's certain people that they hire a Moel a mo'el that's like a mekubal. So when he's doing the Brit Milah, he does all types of kavanot. Some of the big rabbis, Rabbi Ephraim told me himself, they're very much against that. Why? Because this kavanot that they do, although there is a significance to doing kavanot and Kabbalah and so on, says if they don't know how to do it quickly, it causes extra suffering for the baby, because while the baby is sitting there and you're holding him in a certain way and it's causing him pain, you're doing kavanot, kol hakavod. But why? What is the baby at fault for you taking a long time? That's inconsiderate. So a person needs to know. To be a good Jew, it's not just about keeping Shabbat myself, learning Torah myself, doing... No. It's also caring and loving another Jew as much as I love myself. I care about if he feels cold. I care about if he has food for Shabbos. I care about whether he has a job. I care about if he has a shidduch. Everything I care about. Yeah, but I don't even like the guy. You don't need to like the guy. You don't need to like the guy. You need to love the guy. Yeah, but he wasn't nice to me. So what? He's not nice to you because you made a sin. That's why he's not nice to you. If you are a tzaddik, they'll be nice to you. And that's the reality. That's the reality. That alvai we could all get to. Alvai we could all get to such a thing. We're understanding that everything that's in our world is due to our deeds. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue learning more and more to continue serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu better and better. And Be'ezrat Hashem, sanctify His name. Be'ezrat Hashem, learn His Torah, adhere to His Torah, publicize His Torah, sanctify His name, and get all of Am Yisrael and the righteous Noahides in the four corners of the world to do the same and even more. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen ve'amen.
7 years of lectures. Seven months of film editing. Countless hours of study by 2 rabbis. Information we received over 3,000 years ago. All for this moment. Tikkun HaBRIT. The movie.
There's a small member in your body. It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never going to have enough.
The Sofer clan, when it gets a hold of something, it does not let go.
Time for us to rectify what we have done.
Normal numbers should be somewhere around 20 million or higher.
You're never going to have control of it. If you start it, and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah.
Pornography is as addictive as crack cocaine.
You're always going to be happy, including this world and the next. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen.